Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick Taking Table. I'm Table, and today we're going to wipe that month out of here. No more July. It's at the end of July and the start of August, so our new month is going to be called August. And it's going to be games from people in the community, people I've either played with or are friends with, and they decided to show me some of their cool games. I thought it'd be fun to kind of highlight a more of a, it's weird to say the word local, because these are people from all over the place, but more of like a local community kind of vibe this month. That being said, I have either played with these people before or they're friends, and I know them in some amount of capacity. So take this whole month with some salt, specifically maybe plain salt that does not supply iodine, which is a necessary nutrient, by the way. So we'll just... Okay. Whew. Also, I'll include some links in the description sometimes for being able to play these online. A lot of these games, because of the pandemic, were playtested and sent to me digitally through playingcards.io. And so I'll make sure to have rooms, or maybe multiple rooms, so if you were super curious, you can just go into the description and grab one of those links and try out the game for yourself. These are all just, most of them are just kind of fun designs that just wanted to get out there, so I thought it'd be cool to highlight them. That being said, let's start the first one with a tarot game, which we haven't covered on the channel before. That's going to be really fun. So a different type of tarot deck. The Hook to Lay Plateau, which is made by, they are Ray ZG on BGG. I think it's Raymond Goyardo. I don't know if I pronounced that right. There's their icon there. But since it was July, and this is the crossover episode, it is a trick-taking game, but also combines kind of connections or pattern building, similar into a way to kind of Cat in the Box, where you put your tokens on this kind of board. And in this game, you don't put the tokens on when you play a trick, you actually put the tokens on if you capture a trick. So you're trying to capture certain tricks strategically to put your mark on a board and try to make certain patterns. Maybe you're trying to connect two sides of the, is it a hexagon? Or make an X in the middle. Really interesting concept. Let's go to the table, digital table, and I'll show you how to play. Oh, also because I kind of know these people, no award. Get that out of here. That's for people I don't know. Awesome. Now let's go to the table. The deck in Lay Plateau uses a French tarot deck no matter the player count. But depending on the player count or the version you're playing, it will have a different makeup of cards. There will always be 5 suits seen in this bottom part here, which has 4 that you might be familiar with if you've used a standard playing card deck. So it has diamonds, hearts, spades, and clubs. But it also has a trump suit. And as you can see up here, the trump suit usually, if it was full, would have 1 through 21 and a star. But in this game, it's 21 through 13 and 10 through 1. So the 11 and 12 are missing. And then there's the star over here that beats everything. In the color suits, you have 4 face cards, so 1 more than a standard playing card deck. It adds the C here. So R is kind of like the king, D is like the queen, V is like the jack, and then C is the knight. And then down here, it's then 10 through 3 in the rest of the suits. Here we have a game set up for 5 players. So each player is going to get dealt 13 cards, which they'll take into their hand, and then there's going to be a 3 cards set aside. A hand of Lay Plateau starts with bidding. So the player to the left of the dealer, or in this case, player 2 here, is going to start bidding on what they think they can complete, which objective they can complete, whether they're going to exchange any cards from the 3 set aside, or if they want to do it with another player or solo. How it works is player 2 is going to make a bet, maybe looking at their hand here. Let's pull player 2's in. They don't see many trump and they have kind of really low cards. They're going to just pass. So then it'll go to player 3. Player 3 maybe is feeling a little confident because they have the 21, which is, as you can see, a space over here, which I'll explain in a little bit. Maybe they bid exchange, bridge, duo. So what that means is exchange means if this bid goes through, they're going to take these 3 cards, pull them into their hand, and then pick 3 cards from their hand and put it into the exchange. So they kind of get to modify their hand a little bit and maybe get a stronger hand. The objective has to do with the board over here, which I'll explain in a little bit, and teams just means whether they're going to try to do it alone or with a partner. So since player 3 bids, they're going to take this bidding marble here, kind of denoting that they're the one who made the bid. And after they made their bid, player 4 is going to make a bid or pass. So to make a bid, they have to make a higher bid in terms of value. So as you can see here, the bid right now is just 1 total value. So if player 4 wanted to be the new declarer and bid on the hand here, they would have to bid a higher number. So maybe they say no exchange bridge duo or exchange Y duo. So as you can see here, that would be a value of 3 compared to the old value of 1. So it just has to be a higher value. Maybe 4 isn't feeling their hand, so they just pass. Coming to 5, they feel okay about their hand, but they're also just going to pass. And then the dealer looks at their hand. They have a lot of trump. They have the highest trump. So then they're actually going to bid Y exchange duo. So then it goes to the players who have not passed. So that would just be player 3. Since player 1 now has the bidding token, they think maybe it's getting a little too rich for their blood and they will just pass. So the dealer, who's also now the declarer, they bid exchange Y duo. So the first thing they're going to do is look at the cards left over and exchange those 3 with any 3 from their hand. They could also put back the cards that they got, so they can totally put that 6 back or that 9 back, and then whatever else they wanted to go back. So maybe they want to keep that 15 that was in the exchange and put back one of their heart cards. As a side note, if the declarer does an exchange and they put any of the cards that are on the board, so maybe a face card or any of the trumps that are on the board, into the exchange at the end of the hand, those cards, those spaces on the board, will count toward the opposing team. Alternatively, if they don't do an exchange, any cards that were in those 3 set aside will actually go to the declarer. So kind of an incentive to go no exchange because the declarer gets whatever's in those 3 cards. So now with 3 cards set back aside, the declarer is going to pick a partner because they bid duo. So how that works is they're going to pick a king in one of the suits. So they don't have a king in any of the suits, so maybe they just want a king in spades. So now the player who has the king in spades, you can try to find them here, will be the partner with the dealer here. And it looks like it's player 4. So player 4 is going to be the partner. So now player 1 and player 4 are going to be on a team, and they're going to try to complete an objective over here on the board. Players 2, 3, and 5 are going to be on the other team trying to stop them. So now let's explain the objective over here. So as you can see, there's different types of objectives, and these are increasing in difficulty. So let's explain the easiest one to do, the bridge. To satisfy a bridge, a team just needs to connect one side of the hexagon to an opposite side of the hexagon. So this would be a successful bridge. This would also be a successful bridge because the corners count for both sides. So say it was like that, that's also a successful bridge, or this is also a successful bridge. It can't be sides next to each other or not fully opposite. It does have to be opposite sides. Corners do count, so if you had something like this would count as matching this side to this side over here. A Y looks like this, where it's connecting 3 non-adjacent sides. So if it was like this, it wouldn't work because these 2 sides are adjacent. So the 4 up here makes that a valid Y. And again, if you're on the corners, since it's connecting both sides, this is also a valid Y. A fork is a Y in a bridge, as you can see here. 5 sides is just 5 of the sides, and then 6 sides is 6 of the sides. You might be wondering, well, how do you place one of your markers onto the board? Because these darker circle markers denote the declaring team, so this would be player 1 and player 4, and then these over here are the opposing team. So how you put your marker on the board depends on the cards you capture in tricks and which tricks you capture. For a good example of this, let's look at the first hand. So the first player is starting to the left of the dealer is player 2. They're going to just lead this king, or roi, of clubs. So then it goes to player 3. They have to play, because it's a must-follow game, a club. So maybe they just play a 9. So then it goes to player 4. And again, player 4 is on the declaring team. So they don't want player 2 to win this trick. In late Plateau, if you don't have any of the led suit, like in this example here, you have to play a trump card. If you didn't have any trump, you could play whatever of the colors that you have left. So since player 4 doesn't have a club, they have to play a trump card. So maybe they play this 5 in trump. Coming to player 5 now, they have to play spades. And what they've noticed is no one on their team is going to win this trick, so maybe they want to just put a low club into the trick. Finally, coming to player 1 here, they have a club, so they'll play it into the trick. So the winner of the trick is player 4. They played a trump card, no one else played a trump card, so they're going to collect this trick. So as you can see over here, if you collect a trick that contains one of the spaces on the board, you get to put your team's marker on that space. Since the declaring team, which player 4 is on, collected the R of clubs, they put their declaring marker over the matching space on the board. As you can see on the corners of the boards, these are also the 1 through 6 of trumps. They're very low, they're called the birds, and since they won it with the 5 of trump, they also get to mark over that spot. You might be wondering what these gold spots are. What these denote are the trick in the given round. So as you can see up here, we are on trick 1, and player 4 won trick 1. So they also get to put their marker over the golden 1. That means whoever wins the second trick gets to place their marker over 2, then the third places their marker over 3, all the way to 13, which is the number of tricks in the round. So then player 4 will just collect that trick there and lead to the next trick. If player 4 were to lead a trump, everyone would have to follow suit by playing a trump, because trump is its own suit and it's a must-follow game. So then coming to player 5 here, they would have to play one of their trumps. Maybe they'd play the 10. Player 1 plays their 14, and maybe player 2 plays their 1, hoping that player 3 has a big enough trump to try to win the trick. Since player 3 does, they would collect the trick, and then the defending team would be able to place their marker on the 2 and the 1 spot. They would take the trick, and then player 3 would lead to the next trick. So this would keep going, and players would, win tricks and place down the markers on the board depending on which tricks they won and which cards they captured. And players will slowly be adding their cards to the map here. During the trick play, if it's ever obvious that the declaring team has made their objective, or it's obvious that there's no way they can make their objective, the round ends early. As you can see here, the declaring team connected the left side to the right side with this bridge here. So since they've won the objective, they have won the hand. So now we get into scoring. So how scoring works is you look at the total value of the bid. So in this case, it was just 1. The declarer is going to get twice the amount of the bid. Player 1 gets 2 points. The person they roped in to be part of their team would get the bid value, and then everyone who lost would lose the bid value. So as you can see here, the total of everyone's score will add to 0, which is nice for kind of checking and verifying that you got the score right. Then you move on to the next hand. The next person's the dealer. You're going to get everything reset here. So the bid will reset. The bid will then go to player 3. You click new round, which would deal out everyone's hand. You'd wipe the board, and then you'd play the new round. Typically, a game will last until everyone's dealer wants, but you can always just keep playing to a certain number of hands or a certain time limit or whenever you want to stop. So that's how to play Le Plateau, and whoever has the most points at the end wins. So that is Le Plateau, and this game is so wild. I haven't really dug deep into a tarot game before, so it's really interesting to learn that whole system. The must trump is a fascinating mechanic that you can really plan for and kind of bank off of. I love seeing what someone short suits as, and then trying to make it so they waste their trump on unimportant tricks. It's a cool level of planning with must trump, and it kind of makes it so being short-suited isn't really 100% the best all the time, which I like. I think trick takers in general kind of maybe overvalue short-suiting in a lot of games, and it's cool to have that tension where being short-suited and having to trump is usually really good. Sometimes people will be really confident in this game when they lead a king and someone's out of that suit. But sometimes, maybe near the later parts of the tricks, you can notice that, play a low club or whatever of something that someone's off suit as, and try to force their trump sooner than your trump. So then near the end of the game, or the end of the hand rather, you have more trump than they do. And it's funny to have kind of an arms race with trump in a game where there is just so much trump. It's just it's pretty big. I remember the first time I played, I was like, wow, I have a lot of trump. I think I have a great hand. But I didn't realize that there's a lot of trump in the game, and really you're going to get a fair amount, which is nice because then it gives a lot of players a lot of options. But besides my ramblings about kind of probably a lot of tarot games and not specifically Le Plateau, I think Le Plateau specifically does a great job with combining the board and the trick play. I love how both the high cards of the color suits, but then the low cards of the trump suits are what's valued on the board. And, or even just those 2 spots, the star and the 21, so the 2 high trump, are also valued. So it gives a nice mix of what's important, what's not important. I think this game is a lot about what's important and what's not important. Over the course of the game, you're probably going to be losing some tricks, you're probably going to be losing some cards, and the timing in this game is so important. I love how when you're winning tricks and it's wrapping around that hexagon on the board, is the bottom unimportant to you because you've already kind of blocked a lot of the bottom already? So you kind of choose then as the moment you give the other team a lot of tricks? Or maybe you wait to the end because you're trying to block it off as fast as possible in the middle. So I love the tension and kind of the visualization of a hand as it kind of ramps up toward the end. I'm a little nervous because some of the things I want to talk about in the final thoughts might just be inherent to tarot games. I'm not terribly familiar. Like the fact that you call out for partners by picking one of the kings. I think I've seen that or read about that in other tarot games. I do love it in here. So it's cool when sometimes you pick a partner and they just happen to be right next to you. It sets up really interesting moments where if they're the hammer or the last person in the hand and you're the first, you feel a little bit more confident in the lead. You can kind of bank on them a little bit more, which I really enjoy. I think the bidding and the ramping of the bidding works super well. You can kind of see players piece out what they're willing to give up, or what difficulty objective they're willing to go for. Because the objectives in a super smart move, they go up by 2, but exchange to no exchange just goes up by 1. So I love when the bidding happens, players have kind of these bigger steps in objectives, but also the smaller steps in the exchange. Because sometimes you're like, yeah, I can make a bridge. Maybe I can't make a Y, but I could probably do a bridge without the exchange. So I love, it's kind of like we talked about this in Haggis, where you have like the big bet and the little bet. I love when players have kind of a little bit more granularity in their bidding. I think my personal favorite player count is 5, because at 5 you have the bidding of duo and solo, which I love as like just a crazy, like bombastic bid. It's a bump from 0 to 5. And it's cool how I'll see sometimes players will bid like exchange bridge or exchange Y, and someone will just be like exchange solo bridge. So I love how that can come out of nowhere, but also when you think about it, like if you're alone, you just need to get a bridge. It's 1 versus 4 at 5, which is tough, but it's still doable. So I love how there's almost like, not a minimum bid, there's different lower level bids and approaches to the bidding. So more players, more options, but still that simple chart is just so great. For the different player counts, I haven't played at 4 or 6, and I haven't played a version of this game called, I think, Shatagai. It's right there. I can't pronounce it, but it's played with a standard deck of playing cards instead of a tarot deck. I've heard that's a little different as well. If you don't have a tarot deck or wanted to just try out that version, I think you totally can. I think it's similar premise, a little bit of a different board, and I heard a little bit of a different feel. But back to Le Plateau, I have played at 3 and 2. I think 5 is my favorite just because at 3, the deck is a little shorter in the colors, so it's tough to really have a trick go around, and like trump comes out a little sooner. And I think I really miss the more interesting bidding options at 3. At 5, when you get those 1v4 solos or having a partner, it's just a little bit more interesting to me than just kind of going it alone versus 2 other people. It's still fun. I still think I'd recommend it at 3 if that's the player count you try to get together. And at 2, it has an interesting system that Sean Ross helped develop, but I think I'll talk about that system a little bit later in hopefully a different video on possibly a different game. What's great about 5 is that you're a little longer in kind of the worthless, kind of superfluous parts of the color suits, and you get a sense that the trick taking goes around a little bit longer. There's less cards that are just always so vital, so it gives a little bit more room to breathe in the trick play. And what's cool about any player count for Le Plateau is the really important information is on that board. All the face cards are on that board, all the important trumps that you care about, so the Star of the 21 and all the birds, the low ones, are on the board. I love when a game doesn't have perfect information, so it still satisfies people who like to card count or maybe kind of keep track of who's off suit and things like that. But also it has just the right amount of open information where you don't have to really kind of mentally weigh yourself down and keep track of everything that's been played. You can look at it on the board and be like, all the spades are covered up. There's probably not many spades, or, if I were to lead spades, it's not even like that worthy of a trick. So it's cool to have a game that balances open information really nicely with closed information. So that is Le Plateau, and I really, really like this game. I love the building tension as you wrap around and get to that final trick. Often it does lead to that final trick, and it's that last final moments, or even what's in the exchange. You know, those might be cards at the end, especially if someone did no exchange. It leads to a great kind of final reveal. And if you did want to give it a go, I do have in the description the different player counts, so 5 and 3 and 4. Those are just rooms that will be kind of set up temporarily, but there's also a link to download your own pc.io files to make your own rooms and just try this game out. I hope that helps you get a play of it in, because it is truly a delightful game. Thanks so much for watching.